Nation of Fitin10, it is day 57. That means there are 13 days to go. A reminder to you, you can still make really good change. Excuse me. You can still make really good change in 13 days. A lot of you are losing anywhere from 2 to 8 ounces of fat per day. And if you add that up over the rest of the time that we have, that's like 2 to 6 pounds, right? This is huge. This is still a major change you can make, right? Just under 20%. So keep going and apply yourself. And I want to remind you how much days can throw you off, right? I think I remind you guys, I took out a cheat meal. I took out my one cheat meal that I have because, you know, I could make these cheat meals much more conservative. And I have to some degree because I'm throwing in just more real whole food instead on the days, on my cheat days, so that my calories don't go too high. But, you know, my cheat days before this were like, you know, I was having like 2,000 calories or sometimes more. And then, you know, if you space that out over each day for the week, you know, it's your average calories are much higher, okay? So just a reminder to you that after this challenge, because hopefully you're not having cheat days right now, but after this challenge, how much that can affect you, right? And then if you do that a couple times, if you do that like twice in a week, you know, then it's very possible for you to follow a diet that you're in a slight deficit in and then just gain weight, right? Because you're having these one-off meals, right? So, which, you know, brings me to my exit strategy, because I really want to start talking about this for you guys, and that is, you know, what are you going to do right after this challenge? And I give you an exit strategy. Some of you know this because you're doing the challenge for a second time or third time. I give you an exit strategy, and I'm trying to make this as helpful as possible, and there are different strategies in it depending on how stringent you want to be. But ultimately, I'm going to give you these golden rules here. Golden rule number 1 is to eat real whole food. Eat real whole food. This will make a big difference because real whole foods are, generally speaking, very calorie sparse. Okay, so that's going to keep your overall calories down. Number 2, get a good amount of complete protein in every meal. A good amount. What's a good amount? Well, if you're a smaller person, 15 to 20 grams. If you're a larger person, 30 to 40 grams. Every meal. Okay, this is going to really help you tremendously, especially with your satiety and your feelings of alertness, okay, which a lot of people tend to say, oh, I have more energy. You're more alert. You're less sluggish. Number 3, watch your overall calories. Watch your overall calories, okay? All right, let's talk about the myth. This is a myth that's been around for a long time. It was a big one when I was a kid, and that is that saturated fat causes heart disease and atherosclerosis, right, hardening of the arteries. And I want to just start by saying that this was really pushed by a study put out in the 1950s by Ancel Keys, who, I have to remember the story, and I really should look this up again. But it's something to the effect of, his study was funded by the government, and this government was trying to push more vegetable oils at that time. They really wanted to prove, and I'm not suggesting that they didn't actually think this. They may have probably really did. I'm sure they probably did believe that saturated fat was, you know, not good. Of course, I don't know what they were thinking, but they really wanted to prove that saturated fat was bad. So they put out a study. Ancel Keys did a 7-country study, and this is where they looked up 7 countries, and they showed that heart disease was highly correlated with these countries that had a high saturated fat intake. Of course, there were other countries that weren't included, countries like France, who have a low incidence of heart disease and have a very high amount of saturated fat in their diet. But there's really no mechanistic data to show this. Okay, now that's not to say it's not true, although I will say it's not true. I don't think it's true. There's never been any mechanistic data to suggest this. It doesn't make any sense to me, evolutionarily speaking, because we would have eaten a lot of saturated fat in order for us to be where we are today. So that never made any sense to me. But the key here is I've never seen a study to come out and show that this is the mechanism for it. Okay, now the idea behind this was that if you have high saturated fat intake, your cholesterol is going to raise, and of course your bad cholesterol carrier, your low density lipoproteins. These are as the name as I just suggested, is a protein that carries cholesterol around the body. The cholesterol, so let's just talk about cholesterol. Your cholesterol levels in your body are regulated by your liver. Okay, your liver, if you have too little cholesterol in your diet, your liver will make more cholesterol. If you have too much cholesterol in your diet, your liver will make less. Cholesterol levels, generally speaking, are highly dependent on, your bad cholesterol carriers, your LDL, is largely dependent on your total calorie intake. If you overconsume calories, if you're putting on body fat, we tend to see those LDLs go up. Okay, if you diet, if you lose body fat, you're going to see this marker go down and many other markers go down. This is in general what happens. Okay, with people. So a lot of people in this challenge actually, you can talk to Ken about this. Actually, he was somebody who suffered from high blood pressure. That he was taking medication for high blood pressure, by the way, and he was a long distance runner. He was suffering from high blood pressure. He was also suffering from, I believe, cholesterol issues. He did the challenge, and he was able to actually go from literally taking medication before the challenge to not taking it after the challenge. So because he was over consuming food, he wasn't watching his diet. He was exercising, but exercise sometimes is not enough. Right? So, but all he did here is obviously he reduced his, and at the time that he did the challenge, actually I was having you guys have a little more fat in your diet, a little bit less carbohydrates. I changed that, but I won't get into that for reasons. Well, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole right now. Okay. Anyways, he is one person that has seen that change. But anyways, I'm kind of going off topic here. I want to stay with this myth. And so, again, the myth is that saturated fat is raising your LDLs, it's raising your cholesterol levels, and this is just simply not true. We know for sure this is not true. Your liver is the regulator of your cholesterol. And again, if you're trying to keep your LDL down, which again, there's no mechanistic data to suggest that the LDL is actually causing hardening of the arteries. Okay, the idea here is that these low density lipoproteins get stuck in the walls of the arteries has not been proven. It's theorized. Okay, so there's even actually no evidence to suggest that having high LDL. Well, in fact, a lot of doctors are now saying that it's actually the ratio of your LDL to HDL. It's not even the amounts. So, but I still think the jury's out on this. Saturated fat is the most stable fat. It is the least prone to oxidation. It doesn't have any double bonds. Okay, so if any of you who have like an organic chemistry background, we know that the more double bonds there, the more likely, the more unstable, generally speaking, chemical structure will be, right? So saturated fat, no double bonds. It never made sense to me evolutionarily speaking. We evolved on saturated fat. And just on a side note too, meat is, when we think of meat fat, we always think, oh, that's saturated fat. But meat fat's about 50% saturated fat. The other 50% is about monounsaturated. We get some polyunsaturated fat, especially if it's meat that, if the animal has eaten its natural diet. We see more omega-3s, right? These good fats. So, again, this never made any kind of sense to me. Now, that doesn't mean I'm right, but there is no data to show this. So we can throw it out there and we can say it, but we can also say, well, what is the evidence, right? I mean, in a court of law, we're always asking for evidence. What is the evidence, right? You have to show evidence for this, okay? Correlation is not evidence, okay? Correlation is not causation, okay? All right, message of the day. All right, let's talk about 5 things. Listen, let's talk about 5 things. Let's just talk about 5 things. Let's talk about 5 things we are thankful for. If you are somebody who suffers from mental health issues, and I know some of you do, because I know that a large percentage of the population, I think it's at least 25%, does. And I know to some degree, I have myself. I would consider to be some mild depression. Being thankful for things can really help you with this. Okay, so just simply repeating to yourself things that you're thankful for. I'm thankful for the roof over my head. I'm thankful for the electricity, the running water that I have, the food that I have in my fridge, the opportunity that I have, you guys, okay? Because you guys essentially are supporting me. I'm thankful for all these things, and I'm very lucky. Tell yourself you are very lucky, because we are very lucky. We're lucky than most people. We are among the luckiest people on this earth. Certainly, we can always point out somebody who appears to be luckier than we are. You know, this is life, but you have to step back and look at everything you have, right? And so, you know, if you do have days where you are feeling down in the dumps, even just write out 5 or 10 things that you're thankful for. Repeat this to yourself a couple times. Go and do some tasks, whatever you have to do, come back. Repeat this to yourself. Do it a number of times every single day. It will change your perspective. It will change your mood. These sound like a little bit, like, this may sound a bit trite to you, but it's really not. It does make a big difference, okay? So be very, very thankful for everything you have. All right. And on that note, positive energy, positive vibes. Be thankful for everything you have. Give some gratitude, right? And I feel like I'm missing one. How can I forget my ending on, I've done 765 of these videos. Positive energy, positive vibes, believe in yourself. And for the love of God, give some gratitude. I'll talk to you very soon. See you guys.